Welcome to Access a Trader, the #1 community for those who are committed to taking control of their trading in order to achieve success, profitability, and longevity. Thank you for joining us. Here's Dan Shapiro to help you find your edge, master your process, and own your future.
Good evening, good people of the internet, and welcome to another edition of the AccessATrader.com nightly update show. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe. Again, a lot of chaotic things going on in the world, so we have to do our part just to be normal human beings and not try to kill everybody. So easy enough said, right? A little bit harder to do. Again, guys, take a second out, support the channel, guys. All it takes is 1 second. Click a like, and hopefully I'll continue to point you in the direction on a day-to-day basis. So, what's going on today? So, this conflict started many moons ago, but let's go back the last few days. Market's been holding up fairly well, right? Fairly well. Yesterday, even rallying about 300 points, both on the Dow and on the NASDAQ. Today, a little bit different, right? Felt a little bit heavier. Felt a little bit more forced, felt a little bit more volume coming in the downside on a lot of names, but not enough for it to create panic, right? Today was one of those sessions that you didn't get enough to have stocks continue to surge, but you didn't have any fear either, right? You didn't have any fear either. And unlike a couple of names, we'll get to them in a second, majority of stocks stood still above the previous day's high, which is obviously a good thing. But the most important part, which I found kind of interesting today, was the next Donald Trump great kind of coinage of his presidency. He looked into the camera, or at least I think he did. He looked and he said, Iranian leader, whatever the hell his name is, right? We know where you are. We're not going to kill you yet, but we demand an unconditional surrender at once. We know where you are. Market didn't like that, right? The market didn't like it. Sold off a little bit into the close, got a little bit of selling pressure. At the end of the day, does it really mean anything? Absolutely not. You had 1%, a little bit less than 1% declines on all major benchmarks. All Dow did basically was give back what it made yesterday. The NASDAQ was up 300 points yesterday, was down 180 points today. You still got a plus 120 on a 24-hour basis. You have a lot of stocks just kind of sitting there digesting moves, and that's very, very important. So the question is, what happens next, right? Obviously, a volatile, fluid situation. We've been talking about that for 2 or 3 days. And again, the scenes coming out, both Israel and Iran, are just tragic, just absolutely tragic. Like here we are. Like today, for example, today was a textbook day. When you hear me talk about rejections and bounces, and that's exactly what we're going to be covering on the June 22nd, next Sunday's kind of refresher course of the PS60 theory. Again, if you are interested, click the link below, and you will be part of it. Anyway, so today was like kind of a textbook day just because there was no fear and there was no surgence of majority of stocks. Today was a pretty good day of taking rejections. You saw the incredible trading today of Tesla. And here's kind of where we talk about where stocks trade in cycles, right? Or trade in stage. And obviously, again, we're going to do a deeper dive into what we have, on Sunday. But you can see it, right? You see this little orange line. Every single touch they got rejected, touch they got rejected, touch they got rejected, touch they rejected. It's probably one of the cleaner traders today. I traded Tesla today 3 times. Some pretty good moves, pretty big washes. And the most important part is now the options market started betting the other way. If you guys remember in the last couple of days, they were betting the 350s, they were betting the 352.50 weeklies, but the price didn't appreciate. And we saw some pretty aggressive buyers come in today. Notably the weekly 315 puts, and those 315 puts printed because the low of the day today was 314.74, and you started seeing throughout the day more buyers come in. We saw some 310 puts come in. We saw a little bit of the 300s for August. Again, I think sometimes when you see a stock getting weaker, Just the same way when you see a stock getting stronger, I think people bet with their hearts versus betting with their minds. Again, listen, is it possible the stock goes back to 300? Sure, but you can't really bet that way if technically there is no damage. The same way you can't bet the 350 calls if they can't reclaim back the 20-day moving average. It makes no sense. It's like literally taking a shot and hoping it hits. But it is definitely warranted for us to watch for tomorrow for another cycle of weakness. But again, as you can see here, there's a lot of support here. You got support at 310, you got support at 312, you got a support at 308. So you got to really need a lot of market weakness to really get the stock down. But again, it's still ultimately in this kind of cluster. The bottom of the channel here is on June the 13th. The top of the channel here is on June the 11th. And everything else is kind of in between. CRWV, right? We've been talking about CRWV every single day, and every single day it's the common message. Hey guys, buyers, if you guys remember 3 days ago, hey guys, buyers are coming in for the 160 calls. 2 days ago, guys, buyers are coming in for the 170 calls. Today, guys, buyers coming in for the 180 weeklies and the 200s. The stock right now is at 172. So the most important part to understand is when locomotives start losing their brakes, they just go out of control. And the way this thing is trading, despite some decent weakness here, especially towards the later afternoon, this thing looks like a magnet to 180. Might not get that today, might not get that tomorrow, might not get there ever, but it looks like at least a magnet to the 180, 189 area, a little bit of a longer term view, especially the way they are building betting in the options market. So again, keep an eye on that. Buyers started coming in pretty aggressively today on AMD. Again, we talked about AMD last night on the video. It got confirmed yesterday's channel, traded all the way up into the 130, almost 131 area. Notable buyers started coming in for the end of June expiration, June 27th, for the 140s. Again, be very, very, it's keep an eye on this thing, especially into weakness. Amazon that broke out last week above this whole channel here, getting some pretty good bets. As you can see here, it's putting in 3 days in a row. Today, putting an inside day of a rest of yesterday's expansion channel. It's putting in 3 days in a row of higher lows, which is bullish. Notable buyers coming in on Amazon for the July 18, 230 expiration. Again, looks really, really good. Continuing its thesis. The most important part, for example, when a stock digests, you want to see option flow in that name. The more option flow name as the stock's digesting, the higher probability the sellers are comfortable at that level. And that's exactly what's happening with Meta, right? So Meta's just kind of going sideways, okay? And keep this in mind, you have the NASDAQ down 1%. The stock was down, for majority of the day, it was down like $1, right? So the stock is down $5 inside day, which is absolutely nothing. Didn't take out the highs, didn't take out the lows. And again, putting in a third consecutive day of higher highs. But the most important part is yesterday we saw the weekly 720s come in. Today we saw the 715 and the 720s come in. So again, it's a name that you definitely want to keep an eye on if the market starts to get strong in the next several days. HIMS, we saw some pretty interesting buyers come in for the 63 weeklies, right? Considering the stock closed today at 59, the 63 weeklies is definitely at least an eye raiser, right? As you can see yesterday, it hit the upper Bollinger Band. Again, you can see every time it hits the Bollinger Band, it gets rejected. That's the whole point of supply and demand. So I want to watch this thing in the next couple of days if it could reclaim back this upper Bollinger, because again, if you're betting the 63 weeklies on a down day, right, with absolutely no life, the majority of names in the market, people could be, betting that there's another run, not only in individual equities, but but in the stock market as a whole. So definitely we want to keep an eye on HIMS. Some names that broke out today that look pretty good, right? Look at this DDOG, big breakout. I think we spoke about it last night in the video. Big breakout today. This is now the highest close in the whole formation, just sitting right underneath the 150-day SMA. It's definitely we want to watch for tomorrow, because as the market was getting weaker, DDOG was getting stronger. So I definitely want to keep an eye on this thing if it could reclaim back the 150-day moving average. Look at a name, for example, like PACS, right? Usually not a name I would even look at. I don't even know what the float is. I don't know anything about it. But look at this expansion volume bar today, right? Look at the expansion volume bar today compared to everything in this whole cluster going back to even last year. Okay, this was a massive, massive volume bar. Usually what happens, and again, this is not even the case for the small caps, the smaller price names, but just for everything as a whole, right? When you have an expansion volume session, the next couple of days, usually the price per share catches up to that. Again, I don't even know what this thing is, but I saw this volume bar. I'm like, wow, this is pretty impressive. Just the same way DDOG has this 150-day band. Well, PACS has the same thing. Keep an eye on this thing if it could just get it back above this band here. If it could reclaim back the 150-day supply, maybe this thing wakes up as well. So the most important part going into tomorrow's session, number one, we need to know how Iran how Iran kind of responds to Trump's ultimate surrender ultimatum. We know where you are. We'll leave you alone for now, but we know where you are. So we want to see how they happen. You hear some news that Iran still has like 1,800 ballistic missiles. I don't know what a ballistic missile is, but that doesn't sound good. So we want to see how the fighting either escalates or gets a little bit lighter. We want to see if there's any type of communication in the next couple of days. But if there is some sort of like one of those cool heads prevail scenario and Iran actually comes to a bargaining table and Israel comes to a bargaining table, they kind of want to kind of work some ish out. Maybe we could get a stabilization in the market, could rally. But overall, you look at the indexes, again, nothing to really write home about. Qs right now is still holding on to the 10-day moving average. Any close below the 10-day, then it's it's a whole different conversation. A name like Nvidia, Nvidia just continues to do nothing. And again, in a weird way, that's a good thing, right? The longer stock doesn't do anything, but the trend continues, that means the sellers are comfortable. Folks, remember, if there's no selling pressure in stock, well, how can it go down, right? How can there be any profit taken? Again, it doesn't mean it can't go down or won't go down, but the pure essence of buying pressure and selling pressure, if a stock just goes sideways on the days that the Nasdaq is down 1%, that's actually pretty good. Can it improve in the next couple of days? We don't know. I'm always watching both sides of the market. I always have plans if the stock loses the bottom channel that it could go lower. But the most important part is you have to acknowledge how strong majority of the names are. So for example, I give you a perfect example, right? I was going in with the mentality and the game plan today. Well, if Tesla could get back above the 20-day moving average, right? This thing could rip, right? That was the reality I wanted. It's not the reality I had. So the reality I had gave us, three different areas that we could take advantage of Tesla. We had two really good rejections on Tesla, especially the last one. It was like $5. And then we had a natural pivot to the downside and opening range lows. So guys, always remember, trade both sides of the market, right? Read the room, acknowledge the sentiment. If the market doesn't go up on good news, that's bad. If the market doesn't go down on bad news, well, that's kind of good. Read the room, trade both sides of the market. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Losing money is part of the game. It's part of the cost of doing business. Every trader has gone through it. The most important part is understand it, accept it, love it, and move on. Guys, God bless everybody. Have a great night. We are ready for tomorrow. And with God's help, I'll see you all in the field. Take care.